What is government doing about the newly released Marikana Report? What is being done about the 10 people who died before the actual tragedy? And how is government dealing with the report's recommendations? How does government intend to improve the lives of people living in and around mining areas? What time is it? It's question time. Welcome to the show. My name is Mpho Tsedu. Just under 3 years after some striking mine workers were fatally shot by police in Northwest Province's Marikana area, the Marikana Report was recently released by President Jacob Zuma. Since it is a very detailed document, President Zuma touched on key elements of this report's recommendations in order to address the concerns of the South African public in general and those of the families of those who died during the tragedy in particular. But is the Marikana incident likely to help accelerate the transformation of the mining sector? A reminder that this is a live program, therefore you can call us and air your views. The number to dial is 089-110-4210 if you're outside the borders. 002789-110-4210. Our Twitter handle at QuestionTime24. My guest today is a colleague, Mzwandile Mbeje, who is a senior political reporter here at the SABC. Mzwandile, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
You had the opportunity to talk to President earlier today. What did your interview cover in general?
Basically, you'd know that in the wake of the report that is now out, there have been lots of comments, people suggesting lots of things of what sort of action should be taken, and perhaps some people expressing their disappointment because it may not have come out in the manner in which they had expected. Yes. So basically, there's been a whole lot of activity insofar as that is concerned immediately after the release of the report. So as you know, the president was tasked with releasing the report, but after the report has been released, what is to be done with that report? So the interview that we had today was was a follow-up to that, to say, Mr. President, last week you spoke to the nation saying this is what Falam and his team found. Yes. And then as government, because we are the people charged with the responsibility of dealing with whatever things that need to be corrected, so what are you doing about it? So the interview was about that today.
Actually, that was the question you asked, and indeed, this is how he answered.
When the report was given to me by Judge Falam, and also he saw me to talk to the report a little bit, I then took it upon myself to look at the report. As I said, the report is not a small report. It's about 600 pages. So I had to look at it and read it. And I know that everybody was wanting this report. If you recall, I even answered questions in Parliament that, they just want to read the report. Me, I'm working on the report in order to act on the report. And I want that by the time I release the report, I should be able to say what I'm doing. And indeed, I indicated what were the actions that I was undertaking based on the recommendations of the Commission. That is ongoing. Some will be undertaken by structures in the police, the NPA, etc.
When speaking to the President, did he give an indication of understanding how hot the subject is, in the public?
The sense that I got, Mpho, is that the President is seized with this matter and then he knows what needs to be done. You'd remember immediately after this had happened, he set up what you call interministerial committee. Yes. That committee is the committee that is actually charged with making sure that it prevents the occurrences of that nature. So its responsibility is to look at the conditions, like in totality, the socio-economic conditions, the living conditions of the people, because that committee comprises of a number of ministries. So basically, out of that process of that committee, you find a situation where recommendations are basically aimed at changing what I would say, changing the face of mining in South Africa. From this experience or from the Marikana tragedy, so I get a sense that going forward, we will really see a different mining activity. I can tell you that later this year, there will be what you would call a national consultative forum on the mining sector. You know, somehow mining in this country had been dwindling, but there is a process of revitalizing it. Okay. So when you revitalize it, what is it that you need? So there are countries in the world that has experience when it relates to mining. Chile, for example, Australia, for example, and even our neighbors, countries like Zambia. So the government has spoken to all those people. They are drawing lessons from all those experiences to say, because we can't have a situation which has led to August 12, 2016 years. So we can't have that situation. So that is why you already have projects underway. One of the things that the president announced was that 18 billion rand has been allocated to make sure that they develop these areas. By the way, not only in Marikana, so in the mining towns, especially those distressed mining towns around the country, because you know our people rely so much on those. But in the recent past, you'd find that really they've not really been part of the community. They've not really been serving any purpose in terms of uplifting the societies in which they operate.
I want us to dwell into that. But firstly, there's this subject of looking at Marikana and focusing specifically on the 16th and forgetting about the other people who had died earlier. This is a question actually that you posed, and let's just check how he replied to that.
And I think the recommendations are very fair. One of the issues that people have not been looking at is that before the tragedy, 10 people had died in the hands of the miners. And therefore, those people also have to be taken into consideration. There were other people, by the way, who died after the tragedy, which people have not been focusing on. Those are the issues that we've got to look at, because there is no murder that must happen in the country not be investigated. And that's why the report is correct to say, given them, they were looking at the report, but areas that needed investigation, they are referring them to the relevant kind of institutions. So insofar as that, I think it is ongoing. It is important for us to look at that report from that point of view, that we can't add our own things. We act on the basis of the report. That's why we wanted a commission. Otherwise, we would have acted at the point. But again, people would have complained in one form or the other. The government is investigating itself, etc. So we are now, this was an independent commission. We are now acting on the recommendations.
And perhaps let me just allow him to also respond to that question where you were saying there's billions and billions of rands that have been allocated to uplift the mining communities and towns.
Government has put aside 18 billion rand to deal with all of that in all the areas. And this is what government has done. So the money is already there. The plans that were put in place thereafter to address all of these areas, work is going on already. And I think it is important to say this after the report, because we did not want to say this more before the report, because it would look like we are preempting the report or we are diverting attention. But now that the report is out, I think government can report what we have done. There are many things that are ongoing. But important, in Marikana specifically, 500 units of houses have been completed. Work is going on there, specifically, and there are details of the areas that these housing units are being built. But taking overall, that is the areas where this program is going on. In total is about 7,000 units that are being put all over in the depressed districts and areas where the mines are.
We're going to take a quick break. When we return, let's just dwell a little bit more into this political sensitive matter. And what do you think as a South African or anybody out there? Surely you should be having a view on this matter. What do you think? How did the president really handle this matter? How was the report released? Were you happy? Or what? The number to dial, 089-110-4210. If you're outside the borders, 002789-110-4210. This is Question Time.
Welcome to Network, a technology news program that also discusses what's trending in social media in and around Africa. MTN has launched its new movie and television streaming service, Front Row. If it's trending, we will find it. That's Network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. You're still watching Question Time, and we'll be taking your calls. Just give us a call and tell us, what do you think about the Marikana Report and what the president has been saying? This is after an interview with my colleague here, Zondi Lembecha, who is a senior political reporter here at the SABC. The number to dial right there on the screen, 089-110-4210 or 002789-110-4210. Mzwai, it would appear this was handled as a politically sensitive thing, because the president is saying, look, we've got projects, but we couldn't announce them because we didn't want people to say, oh no, they're doing this because the report, it's going to look at them, or rather it's going to come out and be very, very harsh on them. Yet, you as government, you still want to do something because perhaps it's part of your programs, but you cannot just do so because it is Marikana.
You have to strike a very delicate balance, Mpo, to make sure that the programs of government continue as normal. But on the other hand, you must make sure that you also look at the perceptions, because for example, in politics, perceptions are everything. Yep. You can't simply ignore them. Given the kind of noise that erupted after Marikana and the finger pointing, so that is why it was very important that a retired judge handled this matter. And when this commission was constituted and it had support of everyone, which everyone loaded the idea to say, at least we'll be able to get to the bottom of what happened. So you can't then, simply because you have certain projects, and then be seen to be doing things that may influence certain thinking. So what you need to do, you have decided to set the process in motion, allow that process to take its course. After its completion, then you can start doing what you're supposed to do, especially making sure that you fulfill the recommendations that the judge or that the commission has spoken about. Yes. I think one of the things you'd know in that report, it's very thick, 600 pages. It talks about, talking about the conditions really in mining, in that mining area. But now we can then use Marikana now as a place where we can start to say it happened here, but then so that it doesn't happen whether in Limpopo or in KZN or in Mpumalanga, so let's deal with those conditions. Sure. So basically Marikana may have happened, but it has made sure that government and the companies, for example,
yes.
the loanmen,
yes.
which is actually, by the way, is trying to do its bit. You'd remember that some of the relatives have been taken in, and they've made some of the land available. So, and other sectors really are coming in. So, which shows that whatever happened in Marikana, so awakened everybody to say, we must wake up, otherwise this thing is going to explode.
Dougie, you're calling us from the Val. How are you?
Well, and you, my friend.
I'm well.
That's good. Listen, can you hear me?
Yes.
That's good. Listen, the first thing I want to say, hey, I think the biggest mistake is having the miners come from far, either from Eastern Cape or wherever, Cisco or Maputo or Zimbabwe. You got all those miners coming there, and they get in the jobs, not our people.
Yeah, but your people don't want to work in the mines.
No. You just had a toy situation a couple of days ago, where they were toy and they need work.
Yes.
And they, the people that live in the local area, they should be given the first opportunity to get the jobs. Before you employ people from outside our country or from far away, because those people have got houses there in the Eastern Cape, or they've got houses in Maputo, or they got houses in Zimbabwe, or wherever they're coming from.
Yes.
Now the government's still got to now supply houses for them, yeah. That's most unfair on the government. I don't always agree with Jacob Zuma, but I do agree with him in this instant.
Okay.
Because in many things he's right, but in many things he's wrong. The other thing that the Farlam Commission did not do, they did not question the policemen on the ground on the day of that action. You must know, they never, not one of them, asked those policemen that were in the midst of that whole thing what their reactions or how they felt threatened or whatever the case was. So the Farlam Commission is also at fault.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, Dougie. Thank you. Thank you for the call, Dougie. Thank you very much. And indeed, as we had said, you're going to have those who feel, the report is okay. Some may not be in support.
Something that he has said, I think perhaps that we need to correct. South Africa, we are linked to the rest of the continent.
Sure.
The creation of this country, South Africa as it is, was not only because of the toils of South Africans, it's because of other peoples from your Maputo, from your Lesotho and elsewhere. So we can't say now, simply because we are relatively perhaps better than the rest, and then we say, no, we're not employing other people. And it doesn't work like that. I mean, it will defy global logic.
Yes.
Everywhere you go, you'd find people from outside who contribute positively in the economy of that country. Okay. So on that aspect, I don't agree with the caller. Okay,
let's check our tweets. See what our viewers are saying there. Anga Peter says, why can't the Marikana Report be discussed in the Parliament? Was it not discussed in Parliament?
They were. You remember, it's just been released,
yes.
So it couldn't possibly be discussed in Parliament because it hadn't been released. But some of the political parties have said they want the President to table it in Parliament. But I think that would be a function of discussions between various stakeholders, whether that will happen or not. So what happened was that when Judge Farlam handed the report to the President, there were calls that the President released it, and then some of the strong calls came from the very Parliament you're talking about.
Emmanuel, you are in the East Rand. Emmanuel?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, please, there's one thing I want to comment about the Marikana issue, because at times we do avoid many issues. It's unfortunate that those miners were killed. But we cannot forget about the 10 people that were killed earlier. They are human beings as well. And let me give an example. In Nigeria, where I come from, If you work in oil company, even as a security guard, you'll be okay. So those guys that pay poorly, government must look into it, take their welfare as important to them because their families as well.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is my point there. So they must not forget about the 10 people that was killed earlier, the human beings as well.
Okay.
And government must take into the account of the workers.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Thanks very much, Manuel. I think it was also important that the president had to really refer to the other people who died, except those who were shot by the police.
You'd remember that the mandate of the commission was not only to look at the 34, but to look at the entire 44. Those 10 people who were killed before August 16.
Yes.
But afterwards, you remember, those killings still continued there, and the people still got killed.
Yes.
And those people, and that is why you hear a situation that prosecutions must happen, investigations must happen, so that you determine, so what exactly is the problem?
Okay.
Because it's unheard of, to be quite honest, that an industrial action results in such mass killings on both sides. Yeah. So the commission was clear. It was on the 44 people, and then you remember the recommendations which says there needs to be investigations from, I think, from the 11th to the 15th, you know,
yes.
Those killings. Yeah. So I think they're very clear. Okay. It's not only those 44, but everyone that was killed there.
All right. Our tweets. Let's see. This is Tembegile Choba. Recommendations are just recommendations. According to this government, it is just a song. Okay, that's Tembegile Choba and Siabonga Siandlela. The government is doing nothing about it. This issue was supposed to be solved after it has occurred. They don't act. Well, those are views from our viewers. But what do you think, ourselves as the media, how did we handle this report? Firstly, well, it took us by surprise. We didn't know that it was going to be released, so I guess there wasn't enough time to prepare preemptions as well.
I wouldn't say it took us by surprise, except perhaps those who had gone to court to challenge its early release. It was a bit of contradiction because you had people who went to court to say they want the president to release it immediately. Yes. And then the president said, no, I'll release it by the end of June. Yes. And then when he released it, and then there was this thing, I think the president should have observed, I think the 48-hour deadline. Yes. So I think the court had directed that. So basically, you had that kind of situation where there was a bit of confusion. But I would say, as the media, in the main, we seem to be following what the newsmakers do. I mean, you look at what political parties and some of the organizations, let's say civil society, say after the release, and we basically are running with it. Maybe we are not giving it a deeper analysis that the South African public would want there. But it's a thick report. We're still reading it. Yeah. We're still going to be able to digest it and simplify it. Okay. But in the main, we're still following events. Whoever acts this way, we're just reporting on that. So we haven't given it a thorough analytical eye.
Now, finally, Mzwai, you found the president at the Alliance Summit. Did you manage to get something out of that?
It's very interesting. Well, maybe it was in jest. We tried to say, Mr. President, an Alliance Summit for a week?
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Yes.
He said, no, don't worry about that. So we'll report back to you what's happening, but we're not going to tell you everything that's happening there. So, but you know, on a serious note, that this summit really deals with issues that affect the alliance, the unity of the alliance, the kind of fractious relationship that has been happening. You know, the issues relating to your NOMSA expelled, your VAVI expelled, and all those kinds of fights among them. So I would assume it would take center stage because 2016 is around the corner, local government elections. They would want to go there to present a united voice and a united face. Because if they go there fractured, well,
the votes will be fractured.
You've said it.
Okay. Mzai, thank you very much. That was Mzwani Lembeche, a colleague here at the SABC. And a big thank you to you for watching the show as well. Get in touch with us. Our email address is questiontime@sabc.co.za. Our Twitter handle @questiontime24. From me and the crew of yourself, a wonderful time. Goodbye.